compassionate discipline. I want to say thank you to Julie for putting together a PowerPoint for me on very short notice. There we go. Okay. Most of you have already seen me do this a million times. College looks like this, right? College looks like this. You arrive here at the beginning, and then you end right here, right? Everybody does the same thing, especially for people who are in programs like ours, like nursing. They have to take the NCLEX. So they start college here, they end college here, they have to take the NCLEX. This is the same for all colleges. Once they end, it doesn't matter if they went here or UC or Xavier, they have to meet this point, right? They have to hit this ending point, and they have to be able to pass that certification test or their credentialing exam or whatever it is. So this is college. Our students arrive here, right? Most of our students, when they get here, they are not yet college ready, right? A lot of our students are later in life students. A lot of our students are GED students. A lot of our students are second or third chance school students. So they need a little bit extra TLC. When you sign on here, if I was part of your hiring process, you already heard this, because our job isn't just here. It's from here to here. It's the whole entire thing. It's more challenging, right? It's more challenging. We are a proprietary education school, so we are held to a much higher standard than other colleges and universities. The reason why is because our students have an opportunity to go here, and it might be their last chance effort. And the government, politicians, everybody wants to make sure that we are providing them the service that they deserve, and that we are not engaging in predatory lending practices, and that we are not, I didn't mean to stare right at financial aid when I said that. I made direct eye contact with Chrissy, like, no, it's not what I meant. They just want to make sure that we're providing them with the education that they deserve, and that we're giving them everything they need. That's why we're tested so much on whether or not they pass the NCLEX. Our retention rates have to remain at 70%. It's strict, and we know that, but we sign on for that, right? We're aware of that when we start here. So there's some hard truths that come along with that. Consider this. The most disruptive students in your classroom, they learned that adults or authority figures are not trustworthy. Every person in here is an authority figure to our students. So consider this. The people that you find the most disruptive, they think that we are not trustworthy. It's a hard pill to swallow, right? Especially considering how much work we do for them. But it's because of past experience. They believe that in the end, all adults will eventually abandon or abuse them. Psychologically in some way, mentally abuse it in some way. That very much applies to a lot of our students. Very much applies to our students. So, when we try but aren't able to reach or help a particular student, that isn't a failure. Failure is when we stop caring about students and stop trying to help. This is the concept of compassionate accountability. To prepare our students for the professional world, we have to prove to every one of these students, we have to prove to them that we want and expect them to succeed, right? We want them to succeed, and we expect them to succeed. So, what do we have to do for compassionate accountability? What we have to do, the compassionate part, we have to believe in them. We have to want to help them. That's sometimes easier said than done, right? You want to help them. You start at the beginning of your day, but by lunchtime, when you've had 14 students in your office complaining because something isn't the way they think it's supposed to be, or 5 people who want to know why their schedule doesn't look the way that they think it's supposed to look, it's hard to keep wanting to help, right? By 4 o'clock, none of us want to help. We want to get the hell out of here. But we have to continue to want to help them, and we have to keep offering them the choice to do better. The choice to do better. We're going to go into choices here soon too. And then we have to constantly communicate, constantly. However, there's the accountability part. Don't let them slide. You cannot let them slide. You have to keep holding them accountable. And you have to be firm and consistent. I'm much better on the last page than this page in my job performance. I am sometimes less firm than I need to be and less consistent than I need to be. I oftentimes, I always try to hold them accountable, but sometimes the compassionate part is a little too nice for my role. So this is a lesson for me as well as everybody. So before we go on to this one, the things that are important in our industry, we have to remember, we have got to keep them accountable because we're responsible for credentialing. We have much higher industry standards than some other industries. These students are all going into healthcare, right? The industry standards are very high because lives are literally at stake. So we have to be consistent and we have to hold them accountable. Let's see. Even consequences for non-compliance or defiance can be given from a place of internal empathy while being firm and consistent. So that combines these last two slides, what we have to do and what we need to do. Consequences for non-compliance or defiance can be given from a place of internal empathy while being firm and consistent, right? Combine the two concepts. This is the difference between consequences that will teach them to make better choices versus consequences because we are sick and tired of their behavior and want to punish them for making our lives harder. It is very easy to turn on the, well, that's policy attitude, right? It's very easy to say, well, that's policy and not explain it to them. The DMS orientation. There was a statement made that was very life-altering for me with respect to how we relate to our students. Ashley Boomer, our new full-time DMS instructor, she said to the group of 14 who it's the orientation, they have not sat in a single DMS class yet. And she said to them, from this point on, I consider you to be my peers. From this point on, I consider you to be my peers. If you're discussing something with your peers, if you're talking about policy or giving a recommendation for how they should be doing something or asking them to change behavior in some way, you're definitely going to take the time to discuss with them. Why? Right? Because they're your peer. You're definitely going to take the time to discuss with them why. You're going to talk about rationales, not bark orders at them. Our students need to be treated in the same way. We have to talk to them and explain to them why something's happening. Mixed with the Rex. So I started applying this to Rex. Rex is 3.5 years old. He's a whole zero. And I just the other day I started applying this to him. And he'll look at me and say something heinous. And it has made me think to myself, what does he really mean? Right? What does he really mean? Should I explain something to him more, or should I just spank him in your room? Like, go put him in his room. But this next part is a strategy that I've been employing, and I think will work on our students as well. Turning on subtitles. Imagine that students have an invisible subtitle running in front of them. They may say, this is stupid. Why do we have to do this? The subtitle really says, this is difficult for me. Help me to succeed and save face too. This can guide you to a more compassionate response than a lecture about discipline. So a good response to this would be, I know this is hard sometimes, and difficult things feel unnecessary, but I'm here to help. Let's work it out, right? If you can envision that subtitle, if you can read between the lines and hear what they're really trying to say, and you take the time to employ this method, then you can respond to the subtitle, not to what was stated. This is stupid. Why do we have to do this? Because it's part of the curriculum, because it's in the syllabus. That's not what they're actually asking at all. That's not what they're saying at all. They're saying, this is hard. Help me to succeed and save face too. So in order to prepare for this presentation, I went around to our classes and I interviewed our students. Handfuls here and there, new, middle, old. I talked to a student who didn't want me to use his name, and he told me about, I asked them, about their educational experiences and their history and what they had been through and what they were used to and what they had seen before, and about good teachers and bad teachers and what they've had. And I tried to focus a lot on high school because I wanted them to talk about their background. And this student said that at his old school, one of the questions that he asked one of his instructors was, why are we constantly watching YouTube videos? Why are we constantly watching YouTube videos? What's the subtitle? What's the subtitle? Why are we constantly watching YouTube videos? He wants to know in class. What is it? I don't feel like I'm getting everything I need. What was that one?
I go, why the instructor is not teaching? We only watch the video, but the instructor is standing there and not teaching.
Why aren't you investing in me? Why aren't you investing your time in me? Right? Now, we just talked about if there were a handful of us that could watch a video of me giving the presentation of the FERPA presentation later, that might be fine. Because it probably is, you know what I mean? Because we're this efficient, it's the same exact thing. It's me. And you still have access to me. So a student would like to hear that. They would like to hear that rationale. What they're saying is, why are you showing a YouTube video in lieu of investing your time in me? And a YouTube video might be the best method for the content, right? I'm not an expert in this subject matter. However, I found that I've looked for this video for you, and this is the one that I found that I think best explains this particular subject. I thought that this would be the best way for you to learn it, but we will definitely be discussing it in depth following the video, right? You could have an excellent justification. There are lots of reasons to watch YouTube videos in class, but the student's not asking you that. They're asking you, why are we doing this, instead of you telling them. So find the subtitle there. Figure out what it is that they're trying to ask you. Let's see. So here's a tricky one now. What if you're caught off guard and you feel personally attacked? Who does that happen to here?
Everybody.
Everybody in this room has to have felt personally attacked at some point by a student, right? You get caught off guard. You don't expect that the interaction is going to go the way that it does. And then suddenly, what do I do? What do I say? How do I respond? So the article that we base this presentation off of, it tells you to look for the subtitle. Look for the subtitle there. Anybody have any examples that they can think of in their own classrooms where they've been attacked?
Yeah.
Would you like to share?
Sure.
Okay.
I have a class that's over at 5. At 6 o'clock, they have a Zoom class. So the argument was, we don't have enough time to get to that class. We've got traffic, we've got kids to feed, we've got so many things that we have to do, and it's unfair. So I don't think we should do that. Why do we have to stay in your class until 5? Why can't we leave early?
Right. So you're stuck because you can. They have a valid point, and now it's probably not enough time to get your kids and get home, but you still have a requirement to meet meet the minimum hours.
So I had to listen to them, but it caught me off guard because I've taught the same class the last 2 terms, and they had the same issues, but nobody complained before. They complained, but it wasn't like all this, we can't do this. This is what I got this time. So number one, I told them, I understand what you're saying. I understand about 5 o'clock traffic, but you have to be here at 5. I cannot let you leave earlier. You need every minute of this class in order for you to pass. Yes, traffic is what it is. My suggestion is, I think about it this way. This is temporary. You've got 9 more weeks. You've got 9 more weeks. And then you're not going to have to deal with this again. You've got to have some support. Surely there's someone. I don't have anybody. There's nobody. We got nobody. So think about that first. You really have nobody. If you truly have no one, we've got services. You can talk to Keisha. You can talk to Beth.
That's so Connie read in the subtitles, right? That response right there. Connie saw subtitles in that conversation. she heard what the students were saying, which wasn't, why do we have to stay here till the end of class? No, they know why they have to stay till the end of class. They're told over and over and over again, your classes are this time, you're gonna be held for the full amount of time. The instructors who don't hold classes for the full amount of time get in trouble. Everybody knows that. They know that. It's not they're asking. They're saying, how can you make this better for us? How can you make it easier for us, right? So Connie read into those subtitles and said, I can make this easier for you because we have services here that can help you. We have a student services director who can assist you with finding resolutions to these things. Even a step further, we can take a look at the schedule and see if it's possible that this class is moved up or that class is moved later. We can look at those things, but we've never come to that conclusion if we listen to the question asked, which was, do we really have to stay here for your whole class, right? So sometimes when you're attacked and you don't know exactly what to say, insert a default subtitle. Please help me. That's sufficient. It's sufficient in those cases. Please help me, right? Or don't give up on me. Don't give up on me. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to get my kids picked up. I'm trying to get school. Don't give up on me. If you can't find one and you're like, I don't know what they're trying to tell me, they're just yelling at me. Please help me. That's all I want. That's all they're trying to get you here. Fundamentally, that's the basis of what they're saying. What can I do right now to behave better is a good subtitle. What can I do right now to behave better? Yesterday, we had our leadership meeting, and Jan had a suggestion in that meeting regarding email etiquette and responses. And we were kind of batting back and forth. Jody was basically saying, hey, if my students are sending an email to you in your department and it's unprofessional, I would appreciate it if you would tell them so. Hi. Unfortunately, email is very unprofessional. I would prefer you send me a professional email. But Jan took it one step further and said, but what if they don't know what you mean? So a good suggestion, and one that might be an initiative thing, following up with here shortly on campus, is to teach them how to do it. Provide an example. Take their email, turn it into a very brief version of it that looks professional. Here's my suggestion for making this email more professional next time. Provide your expectations, right? Provide your expectations and align those with everybody else here. Dear Mrs. Jones, I'm having an issue with course NPN blah, blah, blah. It meets on Wednesdays. Here's the issue. Could you please help me with a resolution? Thank you, Susie student. If you email me like that, I'm more inclined to assist you. I'm more inclined to be eager to assist you. We're always going to assist them. But I'm more inclined, you're going to get better results with this type of professional email.
As opposed to the hey.
Hey.
Why did you change my grade?
No greeting sent from iPhone. Hey, you changed my grade. So, and then after anything brief, you know what I mean? Like, even if you want to put in there, just like, please begin your email with a citation. Dear Mrs. Jones, hey. But then after that, answer the question. Say, so, to answer your question, here's how I would have answered that email, and give them an answer. Dear Susie student, blah, blah, blah. Let's meet, let's talk, or you're totally wrong, or whatever it is that they deserve, whatever answer they deserve. But think about what they're really asking for in their email too. And just use those subtitles. Please help me is what it usually says. But defining your expectations in some cases might be the best route to corrective behavior, because it's common sense to us how to write a professional email. But it's not to all of our students. Not at all. To all of our students. They're emailing their instructors back and forth. They're sending them bulletins, like what to do. They're telling them what to do in class. They're not communicating with them on a professional level. You're here and all the way to here, right? That's part of it. You've got to teach them how to do these basic things that seem like common knowledge. Overcoming resistance. So the article that this is based on, which Julie, librarian, provided the reference at the end of this, this
Always
presentation.
cite your source.
Always cite your sources, she said.
Yes.
And so we cited our sources here. Overcoming resistance. This article has a 6-step technique for overcoming resistance. Number 1, assume the best. Student resistance is normal. It is a test, but the student wants you to pass. The test is, are you trustworthy? Right? They want to know, are you trustworthy? And then, will you give up on it? Will you give up on it? So the student wants you to pass, and you can pass by being safe, structured, and consistent. This part's cool. I like this. Step 2 is called soft eyes, soft voice. Express calmness in both verbal and body language. I must be soft, and your voice will follow. The article asserts that there's a physical impossibility to keep your eyes soft and maintain an edge in your voice. So if you, let's see, I have a right. So if I'm looking at refs and I say, I have to look at my face with this part, I say,
You didn't mention your voice, so you can't do it.
you stop throwing shoes right now. And I have an edge in my voice and my eyes. See them?
Yeah.
Obviously, I have like the best. I'm Matt Wrinkle. You stop throwing shoes right now. Now I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna sincerely try to do it. I'm gonna try to keep an edge in my voice, but have soft eyes. Ready? I can't. I practiced. Now that you're all here, I can't even do it at all. Soft eyes. You stop throwing shoes. You can't. You stop, but then there's like tension, you know what I mean? Like I could do, you stop throwing shoes right now. But it's still like I'm still like hyper focused on them. It's not, my eyes aren't soft. If you have softness in your eyes, if you're looking at somebody like you would look at your grandma, you're looking at them softly, please stop throwing shoes right now. Right? I mean, the article asserts it does naturally, that the tone of your voice naturally changes if you soften your facial expression. So practice it seriously, like practice it when we're not here, or practice it right now. I don't care. It's hilarious. You really can't do it. Like you can't, if you try, you're making crazy face.
She can.
Yeah.
Connie, it really scared me.
So yeah, please stop throwing shoes. So the idea is, the objective is actually focus on this technique, try to employ this technique when
Chrissy and Mike are back here practicing it in their marriage.
This is not a miracle in our scout, please.
Don't use it there. Do not use this on your family.
I'm gonna.
but employ not psychotic. Don't make me think you're sociopath. I'm saying information to a student, especially information that they don't want to hear. Try actively employ this technique and see if it helps you to deliver a message in a more compassionate way. Mhm.
I'm sorry, me and Mary Beth just reminded me of an incident I did that with.
She can do it.
Soft eyes, soft voice.
Yeah.
Connie can tell off anybody.
Soft.
Anybody. When I say anybody, but they don't know.
I always say that I can find a nice way to say absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
You can.
Which I always say, like a nice way, I always say, make your emails 5 times nicer than you mean them to be.
Right.
Because it can never be misinterpreted. If you're 5 times nicer than you mean to be, then even if you're really mad and trying to send information that's and let them know that you're mad, you can tell somebody you're mad nicely. I'm saying this with love. That's how you soften your eyes. Step 3, offer a choice. Offer a choice. Make the choice completely clear. Verbally explain their choices. Whatever the choice, let them know there is a consequence. Students should understand that it is his or her choice how the interaction continues, ends, and whether the consequence is positive or negative. So you can choose to stop talking and continue your exam. Or You can choose to continue talking, and we'll take your exam and we'll receive 0. What is your choice? Right?
That's right.
What is your choice? It is not about policy. It is not about, it's a hyper focus on their choice, their behavior. What do you want to do next? Where do you want this to go? You can choose to discuss this with me after class, and we will continue class with no further issue. Or you can choose to disrupt us, and I will ask you to leave, resulting in absent time. You can choose. What is your choice? Ask them, what is your choice? You can choose to speak to me in this way in my office while I'm trying to assist you with this matter. Or you can choose to stop speaking to me this way, or you can choose to continue to. And I will terminate the meeting and I will speak to your program. We will go down to the campus director's office, right? Give them a choice and tell them the consequence of both choices, positive consequence and the negative consequence. It puts the ball squarely in their court. Now, this may take 5 iterations of the same thing, right? You may have to say this multiple times and in different ways, but eventually the point that the choice is theirs will come through. Hopefully. Then you're going to respect the choice made. You have to respect the choice made. Even if the student continues to resist instead of comply, it's not personal. It's their choice, right? They're making the choice to get the word consequence. It's not personal. So take the test, they get 0. You gave them the consequence, they made the choice. This step 4 is the hardest one for me. Let's see, step 5, give the consequence. A positive consequence ends the interaction. If they're positive, we just resume class. No hard feelings, we just move forward, that's it. It ends the interaction. The negative consequence forces to step 6. Step 6, escalate the choice. Escalate the choice. Now you're going to offer a choice of a more uncomfortable challenge. So, say you have an issue with the student who's disrupting the class, and they choose to continue to do so. You're going to have to give the consequence. You're going to have to go to the more uncomfortable consequence. So after class, that's a discussion with the student, right? You're going to pull the student aside after class, and you're going to say, "Listen, moving forward, you cannot disrupt this class like this. If you continue to disrupt this class, if you choose to continue to disrupt this class, then we will have to escalate this to the game. We're going to have to escalate this to the game, which could result in discipline." And see how they respond to that. And if they continue to disrupt your class, do exactly that. Follow through with your consequence. Take them to the dean. Set an appointment with the dean, take them down there calmly and explain the choices that the student was offered and the selection that they made. And that's it. It's very cut and dry. It's not personal, right? But you have to frame every situation like that, because sometimes you do feel attacked and sometimes you don't know exactly how to respond. But if you keep framing up situations in this fashion, then you're consistent. And that makes them, they can see that consistency. And that makes them know what to expect from them. So why, this is the 6th slide I didn't pull it up, and offer choice. Continue until the student ultimately complies. If there's no compliance, the student is temporarily removed from the classroom situation. So why do my students keep testing me? Why do my students keep testing me? So you made a breakthrough, right? You made a breakthrough with the student. The next thing you know, she's down the hall kicking somebody's chair. Literally, she was kicking somebody's chair. Why? Why is the same student that you feel like over and over you have made a breakthrough with, why do they continue doing the same stuff in your class, in other people's offices, in the lobby? Why do they continue doing this? So this is all about internal versus external growth. Okay, I'm going to read this little part and then I want to read something directly out of the article. Just because students don't change on the outside, their behavior, that doesn't mean they aren't changing on the inside, their belief. Just because they haven't changed on the outside of their behavior, which you can see, doesn't mean that they haven't changed on the inside, is what they think, their belief. Why? Because some students are battling a lifetime of not being able to trust others. We have a framework for a lot of our students, and we know what a lot of them have been through. You know what I mean? We talk about overcrowded, underfunded public schools that they've been to, colleges that they've gone before where nobody even paid any attention to. You know what I mean? Like nobody even knew. Oh, I don't think I did, Shelley. Nobody even knew their names. A lot of our students have similar frameworks, but some of them have no idea. Like we can't know the depths of the stuff that they've had to trudge through just to get where they are right now. So maybe they're battling a lifetime of not being able to trust others. When I was talking about the students, I wanted to share something with you guys. I told you that I interviewed some students for this little excerpt. I want to talk about Michelle. Michelle's a student here. She hated high school. She dropped out in the 8th grade. She went to Withrow. Her teacher couldn't remember her name. 8th grade. Her teacher couldn't remember her name. She ended up, she had one person who she was close to. Her name was Norma Lane. By the way, in these interviews, I identified about 7 teachers locally in the area who did inspire other students at some point, and I am in the process of reaching out to their schools to let them know that someone here at the college identified them as the person who inspired them. So we're just gonna let them know. We're not gonna do anything, make a big deal out of it. We're just gonna let them know. Norma Lane is getting a call. Norma Lane's the one person Michelle trusted. She was an alternative teacher to students who were in trouble. What's that mean? What's that mean? Why was Michelle interacting with Norma Lane?
She was
She's getting in trouble.
problem
In the
student.
8th grade, she's getting in trouble, and she's in there dealing with the teacher who's the teacher counselor, right? So she cared. She spent her personal time, and she treated the students like one of her kids. She didn't judge us. Shelley said she always had fear of being judged a lot. I didn't write down the word a lot at first, and she said a lot. Fear of being judged a lot. She thought about this all the time. An 8th grader. Terrifies me. My kids in 8th grade. I wasn't good at school. Listen to this line. Failure was something I avoided. Why do we have to do this? This is dumb. I don't want to do this. Failure was something I avoided. You don't try. You fail. Right? Failure was something I avoided. Turns out I was smarter than I thought. I passed it the first year. She waited till she was 18 years old. She took her GED. Passed it on the first try. Now she's a later in life student. She's an adult with adult children, but she's here. She's now in college. So her behavior was poor, right? She was dealing with that alternative teacher. Her behavior was poor. She was a dropout. But her belief had already changed as Norma Lane. You couldn't tell. You couldn't read it on her then when she was in 8th grade because she was taking all the wrong paths. She made all the wrong choices. Nobody identified to her that these are your choices. She was probably too young. But this is in this article, and it occurred to me that this is very similar to Michelle's case. I used to wonder why, this is the last part of the article, I used to wonder why certain students never stopped testing me, even when I was safe, structured, and consistent for months on end. Then in my 5th year of teaching high school, a difficult student from the year before came by my room for a visit. We chatted for a few minutes, and before he turned to leave, he said, "You know, you really are a good teacher. You're the best teacher I ever had." I was speechless. This was a student who was consistently confrontational, abrasive, off task, and inappropriate in my class. Despite my best efforts, he never showed the slightest improvement in his behavior or his academic progress. He failed my course and had to repeat it in summer school. How could I possibly be, in his eyes, a good teacher? This is when I first began to understand that just because students don't change on the outside behavior, that doesn't mean they aren't changing on the inside. Belief. To consistency, right? You might not see the breakthrough here. The breakthrough might not come here. The breakthrough might come 10 years down the line when they're dealing with a difficult supervisor or a DON that hates them or something that triggers them in the future. If we lay the seeds, maybe the beliefs will change inside of them and they can better cope with things in the future. So essentially, what the article concludes is that we never truly know how we are affecting the toughest students inside, but we can assume the best about them. Yeah, I'm going to share. Some examples of that. Some of the other students I talked to. Keisha, she went to Withrow also. She's a young student. Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen was her math teacher. She told me some stuff about high school. She was good at high school. She liked it. She loved it. I said, you seem like you might have been the homecoming queen. She's outgoing and sweet. And I said, she was talking about Mr. Allen, her math teacher. And I said, were you good in math? And she said, not until Mr. Allen. Well, until his class, she even knew she could do math. But he took the time. She said he took the time to make sure that nobody was left behind. Everybody in the class learned it. Now, I doubt her class of was probably 40 students. I doubt all 40 of them ended up liking math. But we know at least one extra person did. One more person did. So who knows how many people Mr. Allen touched just by being consistent and compassionate? Who knows? And that ripples to their children, to their families, to the people around them, to their colleagues, to their coworkers. It ripples. So think about the impact you can have on one student's life just by going the extra mile that you already knew you were going to have to go when you decided to come to a place where you got to do the extra mile, right? So just think about that when you're interacting with our students, even when it's, especially when it's difficult. Danielle, Scarlet Oaks, Chef Militello, she's been sitting Chef Militello had our backs. She helped us find jobs. I want you to keep Michelle's statements in mind. Failure was something I avoided is very impactful to me because it explains a lot of our interactions with our students. What they're saying, I feel like a lot of their subtitles are, I'm trying to avoid some failure here. I'm trying to avoid failure here. I'm not going to try. I'm going to avoid this entirely. Failure was something I avoided. So apply that to our students. Use it as a subtitle if you need to. And then this one. Turns out I was smarter than I thought. Those two things are huge to me. Grace Dearborn wrote this article. It's called Compassionate Discipline Dealing with Difficult Students, and it is cited in your PowerPoint materials. If you want a copy of it, I mean, honestly, Google Compassionate Discipline Dealing with Difficult Students, because exactly the topic I wanted had a perfect article on it. So does anybody want to talk about anything with respect to any of this?
Well, one of the things that we often forget is that the relationship here is that the students have hired us to teach them. They are our bosses. We are in service to them. If we do a poor job, then we haven't met their expectations. It's really backwards from the way a lot of instructors look at it. Okay. The goal of an instructor shouldn't be to be so hard that hardly anybody passes the class. It should be to be so effective that everybody masters the material and passes with flying colors. Okay. You also can't sugarcoat how tough the material is going to be. You tell them straight up first day, this is hard. There's a lot of stuff here. You got to work real hard to get it. Okay. Which is why you need to come to me outside of classes, why you need extra help. I'm here to help you. Okay. And then with regard to this is dumb, why do we have to know this? You can even put in your lecture, why do we care? And then tell them exactly why we care about what we're talking about related to real life. And then it makes sense. Because sometimes when you're talking about stuff, abstract facts, figures, lab values, you write it all down. It does seem disconnected from everything. Why do we need to know this? Because, I give them an example. Okay? And that ties it into what they're actually gonna do. And then it makes sense. I understand why this is important.
Context.
Yeah.
Give them context for what they're doing. It's like why you're using a YouTube video. You know what I mean? What if you're using it for if you've done your due diligence and prepared for your class that day, then you're using it for a good reason.
Mm.
You know, if you're using it because you didn't prepare for your class, then you need to turn it around and look at yourself and think about how you cannot do a disservice if you haven't prepared for your students. I mean, and that goes back to the basics. You need to be in your classroom 15 minutes before your class starts. You gotta be there. You gotta be present. You gotta be there. You gotta have copies in hand. You gotta be ready to go. It's gotta be prepared for them. You have to have a plan for them. You gotta have a plan for the whole time so that, you know, if you're not there yet, you can get there. Like you can absolutely get there. If your course load's too heavy, then talk to your program director. If you're in any department, if you're doing too much, then if you're one of the other departments, talk to me. And let's see how we can be better prepared. Let's see how we can delegate things to other people to make sure that we are prepared and that we can give the real justification for why we're doing something. I'm using this YouTube video because this is the best method to deliver this to you. And then I'm going to follow up with you. That's a great answer. I'm using this YouTube video because I didn't prepare my lesson today. It's not a good answer. And that's what your subtitle says when you say, just watch the video, right? Your subtitle says, I'm not prepared. So
At
Yes,
the end of the day, you
turn
gotta know
around.
your stuff. You
Yeah.
gotta know your stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
just practice till you have
that's right.
what you got to deliver. So you have it down.
And also just being aware of like where you chose, everyone chose to be here in a college working for people and providing them a service. We sign up to be naturally, there's people who are naturally compassionate. Like I like this job because I feel rewarded. When students come to me and say, thank you for helping. Otherwise, if you do not want to provide service, if you feel capable, there are several warehouse opportunities, places where you go where you don't have to provide that. But if you want to be here, then you have to give. That's our role, is to give and to provide and be there for our students. Of course, we're busy, we have things to do, but if we can be compassionate, it goes beyond the school system, where their educators weren't compassionate. This comes from home. They don't have parents who were compassionate. They don't have any support at home. They're staying in domestic violence situations just to be able to be here, because that's how they can afford to be here and not work. Like it's beyond what we think the school system is. So for them to come here in the period that from 9 to 4, 8:30 to 4:30, we should be almost forced to give that. We have to provide that care, compassion, and love, because they're not receiving it anywhere else.
It's hard to say. We don't know where the story a lot of it came from. We didn't grow up that way.
Right.
My daughter was a perfect example. She went to Ross. I mean, I consider it a decent life. Her first job was an athletic trainer at a Cincinnati public school. And the kids had no parents. And she had kids dropped off at the ER by the parents at the front door. And got to a point where she's like, oh my God, these poor kids. Like, okay, I'll go to the ER and meet you, and different things. Because she had a student call, like, I'm going to be late for softball because we just got shot at. And that's their everyday life. And she said it so nonchalant. And my daughter's like mortified, like, oh my God, what do you need? You okay? She's like, yeah, they just shot the car. Like no big deal. Yeah.
Did you catch what she said there? The real message there? I'm going to be late, right, to softball because we got shot at. Right, still coming.
Yeah, I'm still coming. And they,
You know what I mean? Like,
right. They're pushing through, but just that mentality of what they've gone through, some of them to get here, we have no concept. A lot of times.
So all that being said, I don't want this to be misconstrued as our students aren't to be held to high expectations, because they are. And you're right, we have to deliver the expectations on the front end. We are currently in the process of increasing the rigor in every one of our classes. Courses where retention is 100% are under scrutiny right now. I want to know why. I want to know if it's because they should be,
or it's because our material is not difficult enough. We need to make sure that we are doing these students a service on both ends. You can say, how'd you say it, Jim? Anything, I can say anything.
I find a nice way to say absolutely anything.
Find a nice way to say absolutely anything. And that thing could include, you have failed. Unfortunately, you have
Absolutely
failed this
anything.
course this time. Let's see what we can do to make it better the next time, right? So you do not decrease the rigor. You do not bend the rules. That is not compassion. Compassion is not bending the rules or letting people slide. Compassion is listening to their why and explaining your why and being part of the conversation. That's having compassion. The accountability part still matters. Compassionate discipline. Yes, you had a hand raised over there. Yes.
I think that this will be a good opportunity. I don't mean to put Richard on the spot, but actually, Mr. Richard Campos is our instructor, and he was able to get his students to attend the tutoring outside of the class. His class origin was like 2 terms to teach 1 book. Now we only have 1 term to teach entire book. And the main thing is he was able to get students to go attend his tutoring from 8:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. sometimes all the way to midnight, beyond midnight. And I count the students. Out of 29 students, sometimes 12 to 19 students attend the tutoring at night. And I think that this will be a good opportunity for Richard to share with us how you motivate students willing to get on the Zoom in these late hours and staying even beyond midnight to learn something outside of the 4 hours class time. Still,
Number one, that course, which is Anna 101N, is fast-paced. It's a lot of material in a short period of time. And you virtually have almost no time for questions. It's bang, 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 bang. And I told them first day that this is a lot of stuff that's going to come at you fast, and you're going to need to dedicate time outside of class to retain it. Research has shown minimum 3 times exposure before it even begins to stick. Okay? So you don't make it out like it's going to be easier than it is. It's not easy. It's hard. It's content heavy. So if you want help mastering the concepts, if you want to practice, if you want to drill, the way I explained it to him is, I am a basketball team and you practice how you play. Okay? So if we practice the material and practice it and practice it and practice it, then when it's game time, you're ready. Okay? And it was well attended, and it was in a format that was similar to how the exams work. It was Q&A. I throw the question up, they answer, I look, then I explain why the answer is what it is. We put it in context, we move on. Okay? Bang, 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 bang. All right. Have the tutoring session be the prep for the next week's exam. Okay. And I would have people that would come to every single tutoring session because I would hold them Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I would always have attendees, and they were always interested in absorbing the material and mastering it, you know, and that's what it takes. A lot of these kids, I hate to say it, but a lot of these kids are products of school systems that do not teach them really anything. Okay, I've become aware through some startling experiences that some of these kids are given C's just for not causing trouble. And they're just passed from grade to grade to grade. Okay, so is that the kid's fault? It's not. Okay, they're a product of a busted system, right? So what do we have to do? We have to combine remediation with what we're already teaching. Okay, now we used to have remediation built in here with, I can't remember the name of the course.
Yeah,
It was an
099.
equivalency course. And-
099 courses, English and math.
Yeah. And it was a way to get them up to speed so they can get in class and comprehend the material. All right. I've always been a big proponent of, you know, in a college curriculum, that you should both test in and test out for class. Okay. Test in means what? Means you have tools ready so that when I'm talking to you first day, you can understand what I'm saying. Because if you don't have the tools, guess what? This whole thing isn't going to work. It's a waste of your time and your money. Okay. You test in, you pass certain basic concepts, you're able to sit first day, you're able to understand. And then when you come to the end, you pass a standardized test to get out, because that means you've mastered concepts X, Y, and Z. you're ready to go. Okay? But I've had kids many, many times who sit first day of class and they don't know how to do things like long division. Okay? They don't know how to take a percent or do an average. Okay? You should have learned that in high school. This means you're missing a whole block of knowledge. And that's oftentimes why you feel overwhelmed when you're sitting in a college course, because you literally don't have the tools at hand to master the material. I understand why you're frightened and scared and belligerent. I would be too. It would be like if I walked into a class and everybody was speaking in a foreign language. I'd be totally lost and frightened and upset. Okay? So that's what we have to address, right? If there's remediation, you got to address it. What I tell them in tutoring is if you have a question about anything, math, science, chemistry, biology related, you come to me, we sit down, and we work through it.
And
Until
that's-
you get it.
And that's what we really, you know, we really want to, that's the type of attitude, student services forward is what we want to focus on. It's not rule bending, it's being student service forward and just making sure that they know that we are listening and that we care. I will send the slides to you guys. You'll have your hard copy, but I'll send you the slides and the link to the article for this one. And then I will get Beth your certificates for participation in this in-service. And this will count as one of your in-services for your faculty file, okay? Hi.
Can we sneak in?
Yeah, that was literally the last word of the first one. Okay, I'm going to stop our recording on this one so we can use it.